40 acres and a mule is a kind of shorthand, the convergence between the government's policy and the true aspirations of freed people. General Sherman and the U.S. Army had marched through Georgia. Many hundreds and thousands of enslaved people had run away and come toward the U.S. forces looking for freedom, escaping from slavery, trying to find a way to get free. General Sherman and Stanton, the Secretary of War, had a meeting with about 20 African-American ministers there in Savannah, and at that meeting, Sherman said, "Well, what do your people want?" The men gathered there nominated as their spokesman a man named Garrison Fraser.
The way we can best take care of ourselves is to have land and turn it and till it by our own labor. We want to be placed on land until we are able to buy it and make it our own.
And when they were asked, why, or are you sure you don't want to live among the white people, he said, no, I think that the prejudice among the whites is so deeply held that it would take a very, very long time for them to get over it. And 4 days later, Sherman issued what's known as Special Field Order Number 15, and the order basically said people can have family-sized plots, about 40 acres each, that they can settle on in a swath of land that stretched from the northern parts of South Carolina all the way down through Georgia and into a little bit of Florida, and extending from the coast and the Sea Islands about 30 miles inland, and that those lands could be settled and farmed independently by freed people. And then later there was a separate order that said broken down Army mules could also be issued to freed people who were beginning to farm on this land. Most of the white landowners, the plantation owners, had fled that region when the U.S. Army first occupied it earlier in the war. Word spread about this policy, and so you saw people in other places in the South saying, yes, the government has promised us 40 acres and a mule, but here along the coast of South Carolina and into Georgia are really the only places where there was any formal policy that suggested that that land would be forthcoming. Over the course of summer of 1865 and fall of 1865, Johnson, as president, began pardoning the former Confederates, the white landowners, and allowing them to come back to the land and reclaim it. And so this was a huge disappointment to free people who had begun farming there. One of the results of that was some people ending up having to give up the tracts of land that they had begun farming and being kind of forced into signing labor contracts where they would now be working for the landowner.